Hello friends! In this video I'm going to show you 3 easy watercolor painting ideas in a loose technique. Watch till the end for some interesting watercolor tricks and effects that you can try out. For more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel. I'm starting my first landscape by applying a premixed combination of ultramarine and a bit of burnt sienna to depict the sky. Then I'm wetting the rest of the paper with clean water. I'm mixing my earth colors to achieve a beautiful golden color to paint the field. Burnt sienna, burnt umber, ochre, English Venetian red, and a bit of sap-green to keep the mixture from being too bright. And I'm applying this mixture to the bottom part of the paper. More burnt umber to the mixture to paint some dark areas. And I'm moving the paper slightly to let the pigment flow into the sky area, depicting some felled grass. More burnt umber to the mixture for the foreground. I'm painting a diagonal line through the field to build a nice composition for the painting. Sprinkling some table salt on the foreground to achieve an interesting texture when the painting dries. I'm creating some drops with clean water by knocking my wet brush against the handle of another brush. I'm using the handle of my brush to scratch in the stems of plants. The paper is still wet and the pigment is flowing into these scratches. Using burnt umber and a tiny brush, I'm painting more stems here and there. I'm adding some lines in different directions to depict the leaves of the plants. I'm drying the paper slightly using my hair dryer, and I'm continuing to add more leaves to make them appear darker. Some more drops of clean water using my big mop brush this time. Beautiful spots appear. I don't quite like this line that appeared in the sky. I want to remove it. So I'm wetting this area and gently wiping it with a paper tissue to remove the unwanted pigment. A big drop of clean water to move the pigment and create beautiful spots that will balance the composition. Last touches with leaves and stems. The paper is dry now and I'm removing the salt with a paper tissue. And here we have our first landscape with a golden field. Now I want to paint a rainy atmospheric landscape with heavy clouds, a lake, and a piece of land in a semi-abstract style. I'm properly wetting the paper with clean water using my big brush. For this painting, I'm going to use only one color and it will be indigo. By varying the amount of pigment, I'm painting lines to depict rainy clouds. The pigment is flowing freely on the wet paper, creating beautiful transitions. At some distance from the clouds, I'm painting the land just with the tip of my brush. The paper is still wet, and it's important to control the amount of pigment to avoid unnecessary flows. I'm using dark pigment for the foreground to create depth in the painting. I'm adding more dark pigment here and there, and I'm painting intuitively, adding parts of the land. I'm painting a line to depict some land on the horizon. The clouds start to become paler after drying a bit, and I'm adding more dark pigment to some areas to create shadows. I'm wiping my brush on a paper tissue and painting dry lines on the dry paper at the bottom of the painting. Dry lines always look nice near areas painted wet on wet. I'm adding more pigment to the distant horizon line and for some other areas. I'm wetting my brush a little bit and blending the line on the horizon to depict the lake surface. I'm removing some excess pigment and water with a semi-dry brush. I'm adding some drops with clean water by just touching the painting with the tip of a brush. Using a clean, dry brush, I'm removing some pigment. Now I'm applying more pigment to the distant land. And depicting some reflections on the water of the lake. I'm adding more pigment to the upper part of the clouds to show that they are very heavy and draining. Some lines to depict the relief of the land. More drops with clean water to create some details for the foreground. I'm applying more pigment here and there before drying the paper. And I'm starting to paint the details. Some grass. I'm using white gouache to paint some plants in the foreground. This will give depth to the painting. And I'm finishing with this landscape. I like how the pigment flowed onto the surface of the wet paper, creating heavy clouds and a rainy atmosphere. I am wetting the upper part of the paper to start my third landscape with the Meadow. I'm mixing ultramarine with a touch of burnt sienna for the sky, and I'm making a wash wet on wet. With a mixture of indigo and sap green, I'm painting some lines and spots to depict a distant forest. The upper part of these lines and spots should be on the wet area of the sky to make the pigment flow freely and create soft silhouettes of trees and bushes. To create some interesting effects a little bit later, the bottom part of these lines should be applied on the dry part of the paper. With a wet, big brush full of water, I'm painting a line along the bottom part of the distant forest, blending the pigment. And I'm wetting the bottom part of the paper. I'm adding sap green and cadmium yellow to the mixture, and I'm applying it to the wet area, moving from bottom up, not touching the distant trees. And here you can see in fast forward how the water is moving the pigment, creating silhouettes of grass and meadow plants. With the wet brush, I'm painting an S-shaped line depicting a path through the meadow. I'm adding indigo, sap green, and a touch of Payne's gray to the mixture, and I'm applying it to the bottom part of the painting, not touching the path. I'm painting some casual lines and spots along both sides of the path here and there with the same mixture. I'm deciding to add more dark pigment to this area as well. I'm adding some dots with water to create some details in the foreground. After drying the paper, I'm starting to paint grass using the same mixture with a touch of cadmium yellow. I'm painting casual lines in various directions using a small brush with a very tiny tip. Using indigo, I'm painting small silhouettes of birds in the sky, just two small lines to depict wings. One more bird here, and the painting is ready. I hope this video was helpful and inspirational. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Happy painting!